Hey everybody, Tom from TMB Tech. Today I'm here to talk about my thoughts on the Sony A7c. So let's get into it. There's a lot of people have been talking about the A7c. It's a lot of conflicting information, a lot of divisive information out there. If you want specs, if you want to find out speeds and feeds, what we used to call in the industry, go somewhere else. Go to one of the bazillion sites out there that's what they do. I'm not going to do that. I'll talk about a few things, but that's not really why I'm here. I'm here to give you my thoughts based upon a couple of things, based upon my passion for photography, which I love to take pictures, but I'm not a professional photographer. I've said that before. And also because of my years of experience working for Eastman Kodak in various roles, from research labs employee to working in the digital camera group for many, many years in many positions. Director of engineering, director of product management, CTO for digital cameras for a while. So, and at the time, that's when things were hot. I mean, things were really, really hot for Kodak before the decline that we're all aware of. So my thoughts on the Sony A7c are based upon my love for photography, but also on my ability when I was working at Kodak to be in the industry and also observe other industry players like Sony. And I can tell you, every industry player has their own way of doing things. They're not all the same. They don't all work off the same philosophy or the same recipe. And Sony has their own philosophy. So I want to talk about the A7c in light of my opinion. I have no inside knowledge, I have no privileged information, what have you, but my opinion about why Sony's doing what they're doing. So let's go. So the Sony A7c, for some people say crappy, some people say crazy, some people say whatever, but it's for compact. And what is this? What is this A7c? 35 millimeter so-called compact camera, full frame digital camera, the smallest and lightest, blah, 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 with a lot of caveats. But it is pretty small, pretty light. But it is a divisive camera. And it's YouTubers, this is what I call the YouTubers versus regular people effect, okay? YouTubers are made up of a lot of different people, some people like myself, but also, there's a lot of professional photographers who do YouTube as a marketing tool very effectively for some people. And people who are really, really, really into it and they have more money than you might think are going to have a different opinion than somebody who just has photography as a hobby, regular person, doesn't want to spend an arm and a leg on a new camera every 2 years. And you can tell these people by the kind of people who are enthusiasts or really at the bleeding edge. Every time a new camera comes out from their favorite manufacturer, they buy it. And they either keep or sell their previous one. They're boom, boom, boom. They're always buying it, buying it, buying it. I ordered the next one. I ordered it. Well, do you really need a new camera every 2 years, every 1 year, every 3 years? No. And is it really going to make a huge difference in your photography? Probably not. But that's what you do. I mean, you got to realize most YouTubers are in business. That's their job. So of course they're going to do that. Then they can do reviews on it, and they can make more videos on it, and all that sort of stuff. Get more affiliate link clickage. But they're going to have a different opinion. Their opinion is going to be skewed by their framework, by their frame of reference. You can't expect someone like that to look at a camera like the A7c and go, boy, jump on that one, because they just saw the A7S3, which clicks a lot of the boxes that they want in terms of the next big thing. All you do is take whatever they don't have and take it up by a notch and say, that's what I want. YouTubers versus regular people, something you got to figure out. You got to figure out who is delivering you the message. Whenever somebody gives you a message, you got to figure, well, who's delivering me the message? Who is their audience? And are you really part of that audience, and do you identify with it? So it's not unpredictable that most of these enthusiast YouTubers don't like the A7c. And the thing is, if you go back in time and look at every new product introduction, and I'm going to claim that the A7C is a new product line. So it's a new product, entry-level new product introduction, whatever the new product is. You'll find the YouTubers who are professional photographers and pros hate it. They're like, this thing's a piece of crap. I can't believe they would do that. Look at the A6000 wasn't the first of a line. You had the NAX series and, all different cameras. Everybody at university loved the A6000, but that was like the 4th or 5th generation from that body type APS-C camera. And the very first ones, they were like, oh, this thing sucks. It can't focus with the crap, and it doesn't have the features I want, and the video stinks. They all hate it because they're going to hate the new product because, quite frankly, when Sony enters a product line with a new product, there are compromises because of a million reasons. And I know all about product commercialization. I can tell you they do these things for a reason. And mostly the reason is because it's a balance. It's a trade-off between coming up with something that people want and actually making money on that something so that you don't lose your rear end when you actually either sell a lot of them at a loss or don't sell any, right? Both of those are bad. You need to sell, and you need to sell them at a profit overall, or else you're not going to be in business very long. Evidenced by other camera manufacturers, including Kodak, that couldn't get that message. So I think Sony is acting logically for a company that's engaged in a long-term strategy of making money in consumer electronics hardware. That's what their goal is, to make money. They don't have some other business that they can sell the cameras at a loss for and then subsidize it with, some cloud-based service or some other type of hardware or something else. Their goal, I believe, that's been tasked upon them by their management, is you need to make money selling this hardware. Even if you're making money on sensors, which I believe is their major cash cow, the cameras can't lose money overall. So I believe that's what they're doing, and I believe that's why they're doing it. A7C, Sony A7c. What is the A7C? Well, my opinion is it's a new product derivation of the A7 series. You've got the A7 base level, and then you've got the A7s, fat pixels, low resolution, high sensitivity. Then you got the A7R, small pixels, high resolution. We're not going to talk about sensitivity because that's a marketing thing. But, A7, A7S, A7R. That's the whole series. They're different product line variants off of the same platform. And believe it or not, at least the positioning, and I believe it makes some sense, is the A7C is the same camera platform shoved into a smaller body that looks an awful lot like a A6000 series body. I'm sure they leveraged a lot of the learnings over putting the Z battery in the A6600 and being able to integrate all these different features into the APS-C bodies. And they said, okay, well, once we've done that, except for the IBIS mech, we can pretty much put all that inside this body, so why not? Because there are people like me that are saying, hey, we want something smaller and lighter that is pretty much the same thing as an A7 III. So that's what this is. But you got to realize it is a first generation product of that lineage. If you look at all the A7s, all the A7Rs, all the A7Ss, if you look at them, the very first version, the first iteration of the A7, first iteration of the A7R and A7S, they left a lot to be desired. Why? Because Sony likes screwing with people? No, because it's a compromise. They got to get on that train and start cost reducing, but they first have to make back their money. So I'll talk about that in a second. But the thing is, Sony's being very logical. They said, okay, we can have another derivation of this full frame camera line, and we're going to have its goal, its design center is going to be size and weight, compactness. Okay, and it may sacrifice some features for that. So that's what I believe this thing is. In that respect, the A7C is an entry-level full-frame Sony camera. It's the only one, right? It's entry-level only from the standpoint that it's trying to bridge that gap between all their APS-C users, people that like smaller cameras, people that want travel cameras. They're trying to bridge the gap between all of them, and it's entering into the full-frame Sony ecosystem. And I believe that over time, you'll see the prices stratify such that the A7C will be slightly lower than the A7 lineage as it goes in the product line. So you'll see the compact one be a little bit cheaper with maybe a few fewer features. It could go the other way around. It depends on how market responds, but they're going to be close. But I believe if it is an on-ramp, which I believe it's being positioned as an on-ramp to full frame, that's how it's going to play out. I think you're going to see a $400 or $500 premium for the A7 equivalent time frame product, the same generation of product. $400 or $500 difference between A7C and A7, and the other ones are going to be higher yet. So that's what the A7C is. What is the A7C not? Okay, what isn't the A7C? Well, it's not a low-cost product. We all know that. It's expensive. Like, oh my God, it's expensive at $1,800 in September of 2020. It should have been $1,500. Should have been $1,400. Should have been. Look at Canon. They've got one. You got to realize that Canon and Sony have different goals at what they're doing because they're in different parts of the whole competitive landscape. Canon's trying to play catch up. Their goal is to undermine Sony. So they have to have lower priced products. They don't want to. Canon does not like to have lower priced products, but you know what? They have no choice. Okay? Sony has a choice. And so Sony is choosing to come in at a level that they think is a good balance between people paying them money to be early adopters and how much it costs them to R&D that product. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, but I believe, most camera product lines from my experience, it's a $10 million investment to R&D product. Now I know they leveraged a lot of things from other camera bodies, but that A6600 camera body is not the same body as the A7C. Different injection molded parts, different metal pieces. It's different. Okay, they might have leveraged some of the engineering knowledge, but they had to design a new body. That costs money, right? So they have to recoup their investment. I believe this is Sony's strategy. They have to recoup their investment, and then they can start lowering the price. They're going to take as much money as they can and obviously still try to make the product successful. But their definition of success might not be yours, right? So it's not a low-cost product because Sony doesn't make low-cost products. Look at all the products out there, and none of them competing on price, ever. They discontinue it before that happens. Now, you might say the A7 III is an exception to that, maybe, but I believe if you look at the competitive landscape back then, Sony had a reason for doing that. They have a reason for doing everything. And the reason was to garner market share at that time, which they did. Now they don't have to. They have the market share. So it's a different time. You're saying, well, 2 years ago it would have been better to have this product. Yeah, it would have been better to have time travel, but we don't have it, okay? The point is, they're in business to make money while trying to make their customers happy, but not the other way around. They're not going to try to make their customers happy at the expense of making money. So it seems kind of obvious, but given how some other companies operate, you kind of wonder. They give away things for free and like, this is free, I don't have to pay anything for it. Well, you're paying in a different way, but with Sony, you're paying upfront. So that's just the way they are. So the A7C is not a low-cost product. It's not a baby A9, right? Because some people, that's how they originate. The original rumors was a baby A9. And that's probably because some upper-level manager or someone or some board member or investor looked at it, saw it, says, oh, this thing is small. Well, it's really cool. It's full frame, small. It's a baby A9. It's a great catchphrase, great thing to hit the rumor mill with. But it's not. You could say it's a baby A7, maybe, but not a baby A9. It's not a top-of-the-line A6000 series camera either. It's not an APS-C camera, right? I wish it had some of the features of the APS-C cameras, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's not a top-of-the-line APS-C camera. It's not designed for that, right? And whether you like APS-C or not, that's not the point of all that. So that's not what it is. So it's not any of those things. Okay, now we're going to talk about why Sony did certain things and why they didn't do other things. But I think before we talk about that, we need to talk about kind of Sony's approach to product development. I have a little bit of knowledge in that because of my experience working for Kodak and being in a position to interact with Sony engineers and also observe Sony. And Sony as a company has a corporate philosophy, in my opinion, that is tried to be adhered to throughout the corporation. Now, you're going to find some slightly different approaches because of acquisition. We all know that a lot of Sony's lens design and camera design came from an acquisition of Minolta years ago. So there's a little bit of Minolta DNA in there. Thank God. I love Minolta, great company. But in general, I think you're going to see most Japanese companies tend to be homogeneous when it comes to their adherence to corporate philosophy. And I believe Sony is no different. So what is Sony's philosophy to product development? Okay, in my opinion, this is what it is in a nutshell. Sony always enters a market high, okay, with a premium product at a premium price. That's their goal. They never, ever compete on price. That's not what Sony's all about. They're always coming in here. And I believe they do that for several reasons. They want their cachet to be about premium products, but there are other reasons as well. Now, you might not agree that Sony is a premium product, or you might think that they're, crap and they're doing when it comes to audio or video or whatever. But that's their goal, okay? I'm telling you, their goal and that their philosophy is to be known as a premium product. Now, you got to realize they're a consumer electronics brand, okay? So premium in the consumer electronics field is going to be different than premium in the audiophile field or whatever other types of fields. But anyway, within the realm of consumer electronics, which photography wasn't always there, Sony's goal is to come in high with a premium product at a premium price. At that point, then they want to recoup their R&D costs first. So let's say that it costs them $10 million to develop a new camera product line. They have to recoup that. Now, they could sell 10 million cameras and add $1 to the price, or they could, sell a lot fewer and add $50, $60 to the price. I don't know what they're doing. But my guess is the reason the price is higher when it starts is because they want to recoup as much of that R&D investment as they can. And then, hopefully, when they get close to recouping that, then they drop the price, and they are still maintaining the same profit margin. So you have profit margin on top of R&D investment, redemption when you start. But then once you got the R&D investment, you can lower the price and still maintain the same profit margin. I believe that's what they do. You see Sony products come out. They always come out at a higher price. And then within a short period of time, which depends on how many units they sell, the time of the year, competitive issues, a million variables that we can't really know about completely. But at some point in time, they drop. And they usually, drop like, oh, we have a coupon, or we just got $100 off, or what have you, and they might stay there, might go back up. It depends on how many people buy at that price, right? So they start in high, they recoup as much of their R&D investment as the market conditions will allow, then they start dropping the price based upon a lot of variables that we can't quantify, like, how many people buy the product? What are the competitive products out there? Is it Christmas time, or is it Black Friday, what have you? So depending on all those variables, then they'll reduce that price and see how and they'll test that price for a while and see how that goes. If the camera doesn't sell well, they might reduce it more if they have the profit margin, but they're not going to sell it at a loss. What they'll do is that once the sales fall off and they can't sell it anymore at a profit, it's gone. Now, most of the time, their goal is to have that product selling at a profit, reduce their R&D costs, still sell at a profit, reduce it more if they have to due to market conditions, and by the time those sales are leveling off, they want to come in with the replacement for that product. Back up here at that higher price point, which then they can make this thing level off. Like the A6000 is still being sold today. It's like $400, $400 or $500, because it sells. And apparently they can make it for a lot less than $400 and still make money. So that's why it's there. If it cost them $400 to make it, you think they'd sell for $400? No, they would not. It would be gone. They would no longer have it, be discontinued. There are products that Sony discontinues, and it's because they can't sell them at a profit. Come in high, recoup your R&D cost, lower the price, continue to sell at a profit, and at the appropriate time, if you can control it, come in with a replacement at a high point, level that one off, and start selling the other one at a profit. And remember that every time you iterate on that product line after the new product introduction, the R&D cost should be the same or a little less, depending on how many new features, how much new stuff you put in there. So I believe that's their approach to product development. Given Sony's approach to product development, why do they do certain things and why do they not do other things? Okay, so let's look at it. Old sensor, old EVF, the image chain circuitry inside going from the sensor into the processor is probably the same. It's probably the same. If not very similar, it's probably the same circuit if it fits. Power management, things like that, the battery, all that sort of, it's the same. That stuff, including the old menu, leveraged from the A7 III, probably for two reasons. It was easy, it was expedient, and it saved them R&D costs. It kept their R&D costs for that new product line down, right? And you gotta realize that they're never sure when something's gonna be a success. So they come out with something that's lower risk and they see, does it take off or not? Okay, so I believe that made perfect sense for them to do because it reduced their risk of recovering that R&D investment, and they come up with a new product line and see, well, do people like this or not? Are people gonna, and then they let the YouTubers and all the other customers and people like me tell them what they did wrong. And then they get it right the next time. But it's a brand, make no mistake, it's a brand new product line, and they may or may not kill it depending upon if it sells. If it doesn't sell at all, then it's the last one we're gonna see, because they'd be stupid to do anything otherwise, right? Some other things that they did, one card slot that they put in there, that was a choice. I believe it was a deliberate choice because they wanted to differentiate it a little bit from what they're planning to do next, which we all know is the A7 IV, right? And also from the A7 III itself. The A7 III is a cash cow. Why not? Why completely replace it with something you're not sure everyone's going to love? Why? It's right there. It's on the shelf. They're selling it. And they can crank them out. So I think one card slot was a deliberate move. I believe they can fit two card slots in that body. They probably will in the next generation if they're successful. But why do it now, right? Also, why didn't they put in 4K 60? Why didn't they put in 10-bit or 4K 60? Well, first of all, remember this product is a mini A7. It's all about the A7 functionality in a compact form, and it's the first generation. First generations rarely introduce innovation. They're establishing themselves in the marketplace, and that's what they're doing with this. And they're not going to steal the thunder from any new products that are third or fourth generation, like the A7 IV. Guess what that's going to have in it? It's going to have 4K 60, maybe even 4K 120, which I suspect it will, but that's another video. Okay, it'll have 10-bit. This thing's not going to have that. This thing is all about lowering the risk and testing the form factor, testing the idea of that form factor having a separate lifespan versus the other body styles for the A7 functionality. So that's why they didn't do it, because they don't have to, and it reduces their R&D costs, so recouping that investment is a lower risk than anything else. And they're also isolating the variables. They're saying, we're only testing this body size, and we're seeing what people like or don't like about it. And guess what, YouTubers? Guess what, professional photographers? You're probably not the target. So we'll talk about that in a second. Who is this camera for? Who is the target? Well, in my opinion, it's not for most YouTubers, enthusiasts, professional photographers, people that go out and buy the new camera, the next new thing. Everybody who pre-ordered the A7 III, this is not for them. It's not. Okay? People with an A9, people that have an A9, I don't see why this would be for them. It's not. Okay? People who are in the APS-C realm could be for them. In my opinion, this camera is not for vloggers either. They can say, oh, it's for vloggers. We have a vlogging camera. And, maybe if you're a vlogger and you also need a full frame camera, you don't want to buy two cameras. Maybe because it's got a flip out screen and it is small, right? Maybe, but I don't know of any vlogger who absolutely needs to have 4K video and full frame imagery for their vlogs. But okay, YouTubing, most people watch YouTube videos on this, right? Do I need 4K screen on that I'm watching? I don't see why, right? For a big screen TV maybe, but not certainly my handheld mobile phone. I believe the purpose of this camera is to test the waters for a new form factor and to allow them over time to lower the bar for migration into the full frame system and to make it less of a barrier to entry from their APS-C line. Yeah, let's face it, APS-C was there for a reason. Why was APS-C there? Why did Sony do APS-C? Everybody says, oh, they hate APS-C, they don't like APS-C. APS-C has been great for them. You got to realize when they introduced these cameras, the APS-C cameras, years ago, I don't remember if it was 2010 or 2012 or whatever, full frame cameras were just, out of reach. Full frame mirrorless cameras, it was a glimmer in someone's eye. And the cost differential, not even thinking about the price, but the cost differential between building and delivering an APS-C camera and building and delivering a full frame camera was huge. So at that time, they're like, what are we going to do? Well, we could sit around and we could wait for APS-C to come down in cost, or we could, for full frame to come down in cost, or we could do an APS-C camera, and that's what they did. So their goal, I believe, has always been to get everybody in full frame, but via APS-C. So in the meantime, do APS-C. So it was a bridge product between, and it still is, between phones, all-in-ones, either a phone like this or a RX100 like that. There's still going to be a market for somebody who just wants to carry something around in their pocket that has a very small lens on it, so it can truly be pocketable. These cameras here, once you get any kind of a lens on there, you better have some pretty damn big pockets, let me tell you, right? So there's always going to be a market, big one for this, slightly smaller one for that, but there's going to be a market for those cameras. So the bridge in between those camera lines and full frame for the foreseeable future, for years, is APS-C. That bridge is APS-C. So, but here's the issue. APS-C is getting squeezed, right? Because the capability of phones and of even the handheld RX100 series and other types of all-in-one cameras is getting better and better and better at the low end. So they're getting eaten from the bottom by camera phones and all-in-one cameras. And now they're getting eaten from the top by full frame, which for 6 years, it was out of reach. So it was a good, beefy market for APS-C. But now this is what's happening. APS-C is getting squeezed. And it's going to become more and more and more specialized type product for a smaller and smaller segment of the population. Unless they can capitalize on the promise of small size and weight of APS-C versus full frame. And I think that's going to be a harder and harder sell, especially with products like the A7c. Yeah, is it smaller? Yeah. Micro Four Thirds is smaller as well, but look what's happening in the Micro Four Thirds market. It's even smaller. Olympus can't cut it. Other camera companies can't cut it. And it's partially because you can't ask for full frame prices for a Micro Four Thirds camera. We've proven that. We've seen that. Well, eventually you're not going to be able to ask for full frame prices for APS-C camera. It's a harbinger of things to come. So in my opinion, in 5 to 10 years, there will be no more APS-C. There won't be a need for it, right? You'll have all-in-one cameras, your phone, a camera that truly fits in your pocket. It has a attached lens with a good zoom range, or you have full-frame digital cameras. Above it, there'll be other things too, but that's a topic for another video. But I don't think there'll be any APS-C in 5 to 10 years. APS-C sales are going to drop. We're going to see them drop over time, especially if the A7c takes off, which I think it will, but not right away. Not right away. And then you'll see APS-C squeezed. There might be one, it might be a couple, but it's not going to be a big runner, right? And then you'll have a full frame product line, which is this gigantic line. But eventually, the full frames will stratify into different target markets, and they'll be difficult. The sales will level off there as well. Remember, Sony's strategy, their philosophy is come in high, premium price, premium product, recoup your R&D cost, sell at a profit at all costs, and reduce that price as you cost reduce the product BOM, the bill of materials. As you cost reduce that, keep selling at a profit, right? But at some point in time, you can't cost reduce it anymore, fundamentally, and competitive forces and other forces cause that price to level off, and therefore the sales to level off. And as the sales level off and the profits start getting squeezed by competition and other market forces, you got to come in with another new type of product at a higher level, premium product at a premium price. Something like medium format, something different that comes in up here that is going to create tremendous value, so therefore people are willing to pay a much higher price than the standard full frame lineup. I don't know what that is, because it gets harder and harder and harder with consumer electronics. Remember oversampling with CD players, 8X, 16X, 32X, 128. Eventually people stopped buying CD players at a premium price because it just didn't matter anymore, right? Same thing's going to happen with digital cameras. It's not going to matter to anybody except for those small slice of enthusiasts who want to have the absolute best and I gotta have it. Nobody else is going to give a shit, right? But I believe Sony's philosophy is premium price, premium product, drive down that cost curve. And if this doesn't work, it becomes commodity. It'll be like headphones. They sell headphones, but they don't have 10 different types of headphones they sell. They have 2 or 3, and they make a modest profit, and they go on to something else. And there'll be something else that they go on to, and that's where they put their money. You know, maybe lenses will continue to drive this market. That's where the profit seems to be, and Sony seems to have a good philosophy there with lenses. But we'll see. But I believe that's how Sony's going to work. That's why the APS-C product line is there, and that's why the A7c was introduced. The A7c Mark II will tell the tale, because when they come out with that, if they come out with that, it'll probably be at least 2 years. I mean, if you go back in time, you look at their first generation, there's not a lot of time between the first generation or second generation. It's not like, you know, some of these things where they take forever to go between, you know, the A7 II and the A7 III. Right? There's usually not much time, sometimes 1 year. So it could be a year, probably more likely between 1 and 2 years. They're going to come out with the A7c II. And that thing is going to be the culmination of everything we talked about. And then you'll see how that slots into the product line just below everything else as the entry-level bridge between APS-C and full frame. And then they'll just rinse and repeat that whole cycle over and over again. That's what I think is going on. That's how I think Sony operates, and only time will tell for sure. So if you like this video, feel free to subscribe and come back, leave some comments. Love to hear what you have to say, and I'll see you on the next one.